Hello, Si Mohammed. Hello, Asma. I'm very happy to see you. Among the first. Nathalie Leblanc. Hello. Thank you for being the first to join. I hope that our friends or more friends will follow suit. Let me just know that make sure that the sound and the image are clear enough so that we can proceed. Hello, Si Mustafa. Hello. Nice to see you all here. I just need to take some time to share the link to this live session so that it can reach more people. And I hereby request that you do the same, please, in the groups that you have, so that we have room for more discussion and. Maybe we will have more contributions, of course, to the debates we might have here. Okay, so let me do that in a few groups, or at least in the few groups that I have here. So LinkedIn, voila. In the meantime, let me hear if there are questions, of course. Well, let me write it this way. Edit post happening now. Now, okay. Our live lecture on NP movement in passive constructions. Thank you. Okay. Nice. Let me see who is here. So 10 people are already online. Very good. Thank you, Si Mohammed, for the feedback. Thank you, Nathalie. Hello, Si Rabsi Abdsalam. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Picasso GSM. Good evening, Mr. Picasso. Thank you very much, everyone. I just need to probably share this with more friends. Okay. Okay. Linguistic studies. I think Simorshid has taken care of this. And we probably need... Anyway, okay, this is enough. Asma Azizi, hello. I hope you're doing well. Asma Duhan, it's clear. Thank you very much. Si Mohammed Bouknifi, hello, Professor. Sheikh Fadha Abba, Sheikh Fadha Abdurashka, Si Mohammed. Barakallahu Fik, thank you. Si Saeed Hamouri, hello. I hope everyone is doing well here. Maybe waiting for more friends to join us. Let's just... debate maybe a topic relating to the field of linguistics, relating to the field of education. And then we will start our main topic, which is, or our main theme for today's lecture, which is NP movement in passive constructions. Oh, I forgot WhatsApp, so I'll share it also on WhatsApp because I have few people, maybe fewer than you have. But okay, this might bring more friends. This is the WhatsApp, okay, on the status like this. So could you possibly, this is a second call for our friend here. Would you kindly, share this with the link with the friends, with your friends, if you have, if you think there are people in the groups that you have who are likely to be interested by this live. Hello, Sada Samia, I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone is doing well. This is the weekend period, but anyway, 1 hour or 1 hour and a half will do no harm if we benefit from discussion that you may bring up, and my reaction and yours as well to the different topics in relation to applied linguistics in general, language education, linguistics, and also advanced English. As I made a point earlier that this channel will soon start discussing, a number of problems that are typical of written productions among Moroccan EFL learners, especially at the university level, because we know that our students can be excellent speakers, and they are, by the way, and this is phenomenal. It's phenomenal compared to many students in non-English native speaking countries, or in countries which are not English speaking countries. So our students, the Moroccans in general, are excellent articulators of the English language, especially the young generation. Let's not blacken the picture. Our students are excellent users of spoken English. They are excellent articulators, and they may even use expressions that native speakers would use. And this is thanks to their exposure to media, to TV, and to. So this is the mic I have. Okay, the exposure to media and maybe they will watch films, and this is very good without subtitles, or sometimes with English subtitles. And this helps them, of course, guess the pronunciation of given words and use expressions in a natural way. So I will soon start, I will not call them lectures, but sessions where we'll probably focus on different aspects that need to be developed, because when the error repeats among students, it means it's a general problem. All right, nice. Okay, Zora Tik, hello, I hope you're doing well. Si Mohammed Boysan, can you include advanced academic writing in your future sessions? That's for sure. That's for sure. That's for sure, because Si Mohammed, and you know this very well too, there are many people who produce theses and they produce articles where you find some mistakes, some errors, and I can give you a couple of examples if you wish, very quickly. The issue of run-on sentences, it continues to be, a pet peeve, as I say, or let's, a stumbling stone, let's call it stumbling stone better, among Moroccan learners. And this is probably because there are things that we inherited from from our Arabic classes and French classes, where probably run-on sentences can be tolerated. They are not even classified as mistakes in some contexts, of course. But in English, the sentence has to start with a capital letter and it has to end in a full stop. All right. Chernobyl says, hello, professor. Hello, Chernobyl. I hope I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Asma Narjis, good evening, dear Dr. Amrose. Thank you for your YouTube lives. Your lessons are very informative for us. Thank you very much, Asma Narjis. Really kind of you. Mr. Mustafa, sadly, the days of people using proper English, that's phenomenal. It's really getting phenomenal, and this is exacerbated by the fact that there are students, and I saw cases in point. I met cases in point. There are students of an advanced level, the supposedly advanced level. When you ask them to work on their writing, they respond that you are focusing on details. What is important is the message. Why are we going to focus on the comma or on the capital letter? Well, I generally do not dwell on these things when I am a jury member in a thesis defense. But I do not do that because that's time consuming, because there are more important aspects of a thesis, of a given thesis, that need to be discussed. Okay. However, it's very embarrassing for the researcher, the doctoral researcher, or produces a thesis that contains or that includes these mistakes. It's really, really, really embarrassing. It's embarrassing not only for the researcher, but also for the supervisor, because that gives you the impression that the supervisor has not, had occasion to read, to give a close reading to the thesis. But let me tell you loud and clear, ladies and gentlemen, that the supervisor, the responsibility of these mistakes do not necessarily fall on the shoulder of the supervisor. The supervisor will not stop at every single full stop, because you are a researcher. Anyway, it's not his job. His job is to direct you, to direct you, to conduct research, and yes, to point out to, a few errors in general terms. But he's not there to do the editing for you, and so the responsibility is on your shoulders, fair and square. All right. I keep on making this point. I'm saying that ad nauseum. I think there are people who will hate me for this, probably, because I insist on the fact that the doctorate journey is a learning opportunity in the first place. If it is not like this, then you are sowing the seeds of failure, of academic failure. Even if you become a professor, becoming a professor is just the first step in academia. Try to avoid embarrassing situations when you start your journey as a professor, your academic life as a professor, as a researcher. I'm not saying that mistakes should be eradicated by virtue of being non-native speakers. We all, sometimes on occasions say we produce mistakes, but when mistakes are consistent in writing, when they become errors, then this is a big problem. Okay, I may be talking to you and I may have an agreement problem, an agreement mistake, but that's because for example, the situation may influence the monitoring of the English. But when this is repetitive, this is not a good thing. Okay, good. So I do agree that we do have this problem that is related to written expression, and something should be done in order to avoid these mistakes. It's very ironic that someone spends years and years and years studying English, only to find out that there are chapters in the doctorate that are written in a very bad way. This is as far as local mistakes are concerned. There are also mistakes that relate to composition. When you find, for example, that a thesis, when you open a thesis and you just, without even reading, you just notice the paragraphs, you will find 2.5 line paragraph. That's no. You may have this once, but when this is the trend in a thesis, I'm sorry, this is not a good one at all, because it does not respect the rule that sections consist of paragraphs. An introduction may be relatively short, but a paragraph has to have this size between 8 to 12 lines, and that makes it even aesthetically appealing, and visually exciting. Otherwise, and this is the type of validity that in research that is referred to in research as face validity. Without even reading, just look at it and you will see whether it's a good one or not. Okay, nice. Mustafa says, never mind, Mustafa. This is a good example. This is a mistake because you are chatting and you produce that and you have corrected it. And, we may have friends here who know the difference between a mistake and an error. And we may have a session of this as well. A mistake is when you just say something deviant only in passing, but in your competence, that's not what you have. That's not part of your competence. A mistake is not consistent. For example, you can produce a mistake. Now 1 minute later, you can either correct it or produce a sentence without the mistake. It means what? It means that this is not an error. This is as far as speaking is concerned. As far as writing is concerned, this is not tolerated. Why? Because speech is evanescent. Once you produce it, it's gone. Writing, no. Writing means that you type a paragraph, you think it up, you write sentences, you use your meta language to produce a sentence, etc., and you revise, following the method of process writing. So you need to revisit, to edit, and and when we talk about a doctoral thesis, then this is an advice again. This needs to be given. Every chapter needs to be read by someone else. In order to help solve problems relating to sentence structure, to editing in general. All right. Nice. Si Mohammed Boysan, can you also talk about ethical research practices? Sometimes we as students unintentionally engage in unethical research practices. Yes, of course. When you, for example, let me give you an example, which is very clear. It so happens that when you just go to the bibliography of a given thesis, you find out that there is a bibliography, there is a list of references consulted, and with the necessary information relating to that. But when you find out, for example, that the font size and the font height for the first 7 references is different from the other references. Or when you find a reference with an underlining, what does it mean? It means that this is a copy and paste. And this is not ethical in the sense it's not evident, we cannot control, but this you are showing that you have copied it and pasted, which should not be the case. Okay, that's one very, 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 very small example. Other examples relate to the fact that, when you collect data from people, when you record people, when you get, access to a classroom without acknowledgement and without consent, and normally in a classroom, you need to an official, document that says that you are allowed to conduct your research within the confines of this institution. When you don't do this, you are incurring a violation of an ethical constraint, okay, that says that a researcher has to go through these steps, because, this is what the scientific community requires. Also, needless to talk about plagiarism, needless to talk about Chat GPT and AI in general, and needless to talk about the fact that when you do not understand an issue, and I'm alluding here to the use of statistics for those students who embark on a quantitative study, this means that when you have someone do it for you and you don't acknowledge him or her and you do not understand, because if he helps you with the statistics, that's a very good thing. But if he helps you, if he or she helps you, he or she needs to coach you on how to make sense of those numbers. But if you take them because someone did it for you and then you paste them and you don't know what to do with that's a big problem. Okay, fine. Or when you take someone's research, I saw a couple of cases, unfortunately, and there is no evidence that this has to do with plagiarism, but I don't know whether we can call it ethical, but as long as I felt, uncomfortable when I saw that, I think that's, a precursor of plagiarism anyway. My doctoral thesis, for example, fell in the hands of people, a number of people. And I stumbled upon a thesis where, it's like you take a thesis and you empty it of the content, and you feel that there are the same way of introducing, the same transitions in the middle, same way of concluding, same expressions, same. You see, that's something that is not accidental at all. Just don't tell me that anyone can do that. No, my friend. But when you find out that in paragraph 1 in my thesis starts with this and paragraph 2 starts with that, that's not a good thing. Okay, good. So the doctoral journey is a learning opportunity. Why don't you do it yourself? Then that's fine. You stop it. Do it yourself. Give it a try. The supervisor can make remarks about the quality of the work, the writing. I'm talking just about the writing point of view. And then you give this to people to read. I'd rather have someone who produces something that has mistakes, and I advise him or her to correct these mistakes than to have something that is perfect without that he has, had recourse to Google or ChatGPT or whatever. It's clear now. I think it's no longer mysterious. When you read a piece of, especially, what happens is that sometimes you find a student with a very poorly written introduction, very poorly written acknowledgements, very poorly written dedication. But when you go to the review, it's native-like. It's not just native-like. It's error-free. It's very good, English, very good with error-free English, as I said, and you have a feeling that it was written by someone who has had years of experience researching that. What does that mean? And when you go to the chapter where, the person interprets the results, because the results interpretation, the interpretation is bound by the results that you have, then you feel that there is a difference. Here, I think this begs, this calls into question the credibility of this young researcher. Okay. Nice. Let me read other comments here. Yeah, Si Mohammed Bouissant. So I would agree with you. I agree. There are things, people that will take this to be, normal and legitimate, but they don't realize that they are, making a mistake. Okay. For example, can we talk about getting IRB approval in Moroccan universities? Approval about what? I mean, is approval about the final version of the thesis, or approval maybe to get data? I'm not sure. I'm familiar with IRB there. Would you kindly explain this? See, Mohammed Bouissan, maybe this is something you have seen in another country, but look, institutions need to be respected. As long as you belong to a given higher education institution, you want to go, for example, to another institution, all that you need to do is follow the procedure. There are templates ready at your institution that you need to fill out with the agreement of the head of the institution, and then you go and you submit it to take data. This way you are, and by the way, these authorizations, these concepts need to appear in the appendix, and they show that you are, you have no ethical issues. Okay, good. Rahawi Nordin, you were my teacher. I'm very happy I was. Thank you for joining us, Nordin. All right. That's Rawi, I think. Rawi Nordin. Okay. Mustafa Murshid, no, I mean it. The comment was supposed to be funny. Okay, I don't know. That comment was in reaction to what? I cannot tell, unfortunately. I don't remember. I mean, Natalie, a mistake is accidental. That's true. And an error is consistent. Of course, Natalie Leblanc, is it better to use MLA or APA style in research? This will depend on whether you are doing psychology or history, or there is a tendency for research in linguistics, applied linguistics, to follow the APA style. Just be consistent. That's what is important. Be consistent. So APA is easy to manipulate. It's easy to use, to handle. So just go for it. Could you please talk about techniques we should follow to be more professional? More professional as what? As students, as teachers? So if you want to be professional, you have to respect the environment where you are. How do we respect the environment in which we are? If you are a teacher, arrive to your work on time. That's number one. Do not leave before time. That's the second thing. And I'll come to this point. Respect, what you are supposed to do. You respect the head of the department, you respect the headmaster if it's at high school, and also respect your students. That's how you can be professional. You see, respect and do your work the way it should be done. Do not feel that you are there because there is a salary that is coming. That's a bad idea. That's a terrible idea. It makes you hate your work, by the way. It makes you find your work very an exorbitant task and an onerous, exorbitant in terms of the effort. You see, means you need to spend a lot of effort, and you have that feeling. But when you do something out of love to the job you are doing, you become the star, there at work. Do it because you love the work. That's how you become professional. The key term here is respect. Respect what the code, the dress code, for example, all sorts of codes, the communication code, respond to emails if you receive them, and be on time for the meeting. Do not apologize, for unless this is really urgent and there is an emergency, But that's how we become professional. And do not submit something, for example, do not send something that you don't revise, and you don't, even the email, for example. I'm just speaking my mind here. When you are in a work environment, and then you write an email, and the email is terribly written. It's written in informal and in not disrespect, but you use colloquialisms, or you use the dialect, rather than the standard form. Here, no. That goes against professionalism, and there are many aspects, of course, but the key term is respect, because if you take all the examples I have given you here, they boil down to the idea of respect. Okay, as a student, you can be professional. Number one, look at this. I don't know if I have my S3 students here, and through my S3 students, this is a message to all the students who are following us here, if we have any, or the ones who will watch this afterwards. When your professor asks you to submit a piece of work, it's a detail. You may say that this Amros is crazy, he's talking about. But look, the presentation, the way you handle your paper, the format of your paper will reveal a lot about who you are. On many occasions, I receive and I tell my S3 students, they may be here, but fortunately, that was just on day one, and they understood the message, and they submitted things that were clean. But generally, when we do not talk about the format at the beginning, what happens is that you receive, an assignment, and with a header of, for example, a doctor who is, a gynecologist, an obstetrician, and you see, and they give it to me as a task, or a given company that produces certain products, and then you give me the essay there. You write the essay down. This is not This is not polite, by the way. It's not even professional. It's not polite, my friends. Politeness does not consist just in smiling to the teacher. No, it's not polite, just in your practices. هذه واحدة. I'm answering this question if this the friend who asked the question is a teacher, is a student. This is a real message. So please, some assignments come with clearly written name, with a title, assignment submitted to Professor so and so, assignment number. Some of them write even the number. This is really nice. This is how you learn to be professional. Okay. What else? Yeah. Sometimes, in the classroom, there are students who come late, and they come in weird clothes, while it's their inalienable right to dress the way they like. In the classroom, there is a dress code. I'm not saying that they should come, maybe wearing expensive clothes or whatever. We're not talking. That's not the issue. The issue is to be decent. Be decent. Do not come in an underwear, for example. It happened to me. A student came, and I told him that this is the last time I will see you coming to my class with that with that type of outfit. That's not good. Okay. These practices, infinitesimal though they may be, are actually, rudiments of professionalism or lack thereof. So it all depends on. So behave well, be well behaved, whether you are a student or whether you are at work. You will lose nothing. You will instead gain the respect of the people, you interact with. Okay. So this issue of professionalism is very, very important. Yes. Whoever you are, be professional. Respect people, be involved in the coordination task if there are any coordination tasks. Do not hold aloof, because when you isolate yourself, wherever you are, when you isolate yourself, then you may be given a ticket, and you will always be, pointed to as someone who shuns work, or who idles, and who does not join who is weird, someone who is weird. Let's use the term. Okay, so Mustafa Murshid, Natalie, APA usually used in linguistics research, whereas MLA is used in literary studies. Thank you. And also in Chicago, I think, in history. But thank you, Si Mustafa. This is clear. Thank you so much. Dear Professor, could you possibly tell us about the defense presentation? What should it include? What it shouldn't include? I think we talked about this. See, Mohammed Bouknifi, a video was uploaded, I think, on YouTube, on this channel, about this. But what it should include, it should just follow the logic of your thesis. The main points in your thesis need to be reflected in the slides. Except that slides that you will produce need to be a microcosmic representation of your thesis. One of the mistakes that are made, that are common in the course of preparing a presentation, for the defense, is the fact that students believe, wrongly of course, that the more they write, the more stuffed the slides are, the more satisfied the jury members will become. This is false. That's not the case. PowerPoint is called PowerPoint because they have to include points that have power. Producing paragraphs in slides and reading them out in a presentation makes you a very passive presenter, and people might call your credibility into question. What does it mean when you come, for example, you have worked on a thesis for 5 years, and you come to the presentation, and then you start reading from the slides? For me, it can mean that you have this stage fright, or you are panicking. But it can also mean, if we want to play the devil's advocate, it can also mean that you did not do your work the correct way. You are not sure. You are not self-confident, or someone did it for you, or you plagiarized, or the jury member may not voice this, but this can, or at best they can tell you that you are unable to use English. You see? So get enough training beforehand. You will have ample time between the announcement of your defense and the defense date, and then you will have ample time to prepare and to rehearse and to present in front of people or in front of the mirror. Or you don't need people. You need neither people nor the mirror, just between you and yourself. Time the presentation, and everything will be fine. In a presentation typically, the PowerPoint presentation for the defense typically includes your objectives, the reason why you have these objectives, research questions, research hypotheses, methodology, where you have data collection, instruments, participants with few details, with enough detail, but not too much, of course. And then you move to the results. These are result 1, result 2, result 3, and then you discuss them, talk about your implications, and thank the people for having put up with you. No, the people who have listened to you, of course. Do not exceed the amount of time allocated to your presentation, of course, because doing so is likely to make people, uncomfortable, and some of them may get fed up with that, because they have read the work. You are there not to teach them anything. You are there not to show any new piece of information. You are there to summarize what they have read. So they know. But it's just think of the presentation like an extra exercise for you, where people they have read the work, that's your written competence, and they want to listen to you talk. You see, that's like an oral presentation, an oral exam. So think about this, please, and choose your words, of course. Believe me, if you rehearse just twice or 3 times, you will not have any problem when you come to the presentation. It's not difficult at all. When I'm talking about the fact that you need to prepare, it does not mean it's not difficult at all. Just try it. You rehearse once or twice. This is more than enough. Okay, good. So, see, Mohammed, I hope I have managed to interact with your question. The comment I was referring to, says Si Mustafa, as being funny is sadly the days of people using the proper. Yeah, I went, so that I remember that. Organ, that's not an error anyway. Si Mustafa. Okay. Si Muhammad says, are we institution review board? Before administering the questionnaire, a meeting is held. Yes. But here it is done in another way, and I would advise, I may have said this time and again. Let me repeat that in hopes that people will understand what they are supposed to do and what they should not do in regard to instrumentation. An instrument is more than one way of collecting information. it's not the questions that matter only. It's also the way you order the questions. For example, whether your instruments reflect your hypotheses and your objectives, and whether, for example, the way you ask people to do the task, whatever it is, if it's grammaticality, judgment, and so forth, make sure that they are able to do that. Because if you have a very long grammaticality judgment exercise where you ask people to say whether the sentence is correct or incorrect, and you ask for 15 minutes, and you give them 60 questions that are complex and that need a lot of thinking, this is not valid, of course. And this brings me to the issue of piloting. In any case, check your instruments. Check your instruments with people before administering. When you administer this, when you administer the questionnaire, Safi, there is no way of going back. Okay, so please, not questionnaire, any instrument for that matter. So please show this to a few people, to the people around you in the doctorate group, but also to the people you think are specialized in the field, and people who can help you. It can take time. Either you discuss it with them, you visit them where they can receive you, or you send them by email, but you need to do that with your supervisor, but also with people. Okay, and if in case there is a disagreement, you have to tip the balance in favor of the majority. That's the thing. Okay, good. So thank you, Si Mohammed, for this, Si Mohammed Bouissan, for this contribution. Si Mohammed Bouknifi, so true. That's what professionalism is. And that's how it should be like. That's true. That's true. Si Mohammed University or society. Right. Okay. Nathalie Leblanc. Thank you, Mr. Mustafa. Yeah, thank you. Okay, Si Mustafa, you're welcome, Nathalie. Okay. Azdin says, Tahiyati al-Akh al-Azim. Thank you, Mr. Azdin. Really kind of you. Barakallahu fiqh. Mohammed Lazarq says, hello, Professor. Thanks again for the initiative. Is it true that EFL speakers, non-native, speak an interlanguage? Yes, according to the theory of interlanguage developed by Selinker 1972 in reaction to previous, because there had been a dispute between error analysis and contrastive analysis, which supersedes which, not chronologically, but in terms of accurately capturing the image, the learning image, the learning picture. So interlanguage theory came to incorporate both in terms of the 5 processes that Selinker talked about. Okay, sources of errors, of course, sources of what he refers to as fossilization. And the assumption there is that when you start your learning journey, you are putting your first foot into a system that is neither the mother tongue nor the target language. It's a unique system referred to as interlanguage. This interlanguage, of course, can have, as is the case, because what is interlanguage? Interlanguage is taken to be an autonomous system, an independent system, on analogy with any other natural language. What is it that motivates this view? It's the fact that learners do exactly what native speakers do in the course of learning their first language. They go through, so interlanguage is a system, and languages are systems, natural languages are systems. In interlanguage, there is some universality, because learners were, argued to follow the same route and they achieve the same. This is called the rate and the route. And of course, even variability. There is this article by Taroni called or entitled Interlanguage as Chameleon, which means that interlanguage is subject to variability. Okay, the way a natural language is variable. And by the way, Taroni was influenced to a large extent by the work of William Labov, who talked about the variability of certain sounds depending on context. Okay, and therefore, so the bottom line, just to answer this question directly, yes, it's true that no matter how advanced you are in a second language, that's still an interlanguage, and this interlanguage may converge on a native-like competence and it may be a little less so or far from it. But in any case, the learning journey is an interlanguage journey. Okay, and it's not, by the way, it's not pejorative to talk about interlanguage. No, it's not pejorative. It's just an appellation that is theory faithful. It's faithful to theory of interlanguage, which itself is influenced by the work of Chomsky and the movement, the idea that there are psycholinguistic processes at work in the course of learning a given language, okay, a given second language. Thank you, Si Mohammed Al-Zaraq. Very fruitful, very nice, question. English Shuruk channel. Salam. Salam, English Shuruk channel. Are you saying salam because you want to to show the channel? That's fine. There is no problem with that. But please contribute with, if you have any question or any criticism or any addition, English Shuruk channel, please come, okay? Mustafa Moshi, the term interlanguage was suggested by Larry Selinker, but I am sorry to say that he was stupid to refer to people's language as interlanguage. It's not like that. The idea, Si Mustafa, let me push the discussion one point further. Now, the idea of language itself has been subject to a number of views. The very term language has undergone a lot of interpretations, one of which is this interlanguage. So how come that a language is referred to as an interlanguage? But interlanguage necessarily indicates that there is learning taking place. You see, that's the thing. It's the journey of the learner. Or previously, the people used to call it, or had been calling it, some used, like Nemser, for example, they used to call it idiosyncratic dialect, learner language, approximative system, okay? But, interlanguage came to unify all these terms under this rubric of interlanguage, but it's not to a given language. It's just it's like a descriptive device. So interlanguage is normally a descriptive device to characterize learner language during his or her journey. Well, whether you would like to disagree, Mustafa, yeah, of course, people called this into question, of course, and they, administered or they leveled criticism against the concept. But, of course, anyone can do that. But, it's contingent on us to provide, maybe alternatives. Yeah, if you do not... if a person is not reared in this tradition, maybe because there are different learning theories, different approaches, different starting points, different theoretical frameworks, of course they would attack this concept. But someone who is reared in this type of research may not find it weird anyway. But thank you, Si Mustafa. I hope our friends here will contribute in regard to this very point. Thank you, Si Mustafa. Anis says he has a question. We will see. So, yeah, you ask your question, Anis. Si Mohammed Al-Zaraq, is the internal consistency test for Cronbach alpha run to check the reliability of Likert scales only? Whenever you have, it's not just Likert scale, of course, but just to make this clear and to answer directly, Cronbach alpha is there to do one thing. It has just one job to do, regardless of the scale that you are using. As long as you have a number of items to measure one construct. The classical example now is motivation, that you cannot, or is attitudes, let's say attitudes, that you cannot capture in terms of one question. So you need 5 or 6 questions. The point behind Cronbach alpha is just to see whether the 7 questions the 7 items, let's call them items, 7 items that you have produced to measure, attitudes, whether they measure it or not. Okay? And which items are the odd ones out. which items do not contribute to this item. This is what we mean by consistency. Do they consistently measure that concept? So if it turns out, so Cronbach alpha is able to tell us, for example, that the 7 items that you have used to test your motivation, regardless of whether they are ordinal or ratio or whatever, do they measure the construct or the variable of attitudes? Yes, no. Yes, if you have from 70% onwards, it means yes. It means you do nothing. Fine. You celebrate. 80 is even better. Below 70, not really consistent. That's one thing. The other thing is that there is an option when you run this, okay, Cronbach alpha, to delete the item that contributes to the inconsistency. If it turns out, for example, that you have 60%, of course, obviously, this is not consistent. When you find this, you go to a table where you see the possibilities of deleting some of the items. So if it's 7 items, you are asked to delete 2 items in order to increase. So it says delete this, and the 60% that you have there will become 75%. All that you need to do is delete those items from your test, but please mention that in the methodology so that people will know that you did the work. Okay? Fine. Okay, so we may have lectures on this in the days to come, of course. Nice. Si Mohammed Zaraq, I hope I have answered you. Picasso, Prof, please, how can we use anaphoric binding as an argument of sentences that have a hierarchical structure? Maybe this can be relating to C command, of course, C commanding conditions on anaphor, because one of the uses of C command is to argue for the anaphora and its antecedent. So we say that an anaphor has a closemate, an appropriate closemate C commanding antecedent. It means that you have okay, so you have a reflexive pronoun here, like itself, which refers to, for example, here, it quickly, for example, something itself. Okay, let's provide this crazy proverb. He slapped himself. He and himself, or he praised himself. That's a good example. He praised himself. So he and himself entertain a relation of an anaphor and an antecedent. And of course, this one here, C comments this. All right. So we can refer to them. We can say that they exist in in a relation of C command, because the first branching node dominated this, also dominates this, and this does not dominate this, and this does not does this dominate this. So this is one way of accounting for this relation that you have talked about, Picasso GSM. Mohammed Boysen says, I advise all students to attend your sessions. I have benefited a lot from them. I really experienced many things you mentioned in real life. You are a life savior, not a life savior, but just, sharing advice. But thank you, Si Mohammed. You are encouraging me to schedule more lives, because I will not hide it from you. Sometimes it occurs to me to realize that because I have very few or fewer than I expect, or fewer people than I expect, join these lives. Sometimes I think that I need to, I don't find this, encouraging, because people do not react and I don't know. Of course, you are the exception, my dear friends here. But comments like these, make me, continue and maybe more effort, make more effort. So thank you very much, Si Mohammed. I also learned from so many people who impacted me. who helps me. Let me not deny the fact that they did. My professors, my friends. So it's always like this. We never start from scratch. We always need to listen to each other and to benefit from each other. And I benefited from my students on many occasions. Shall I deny that? No, no. There are students who bring new ideas, new maybe explanations to a problem. So that's fine. So it's good. We reach these points, these levels by listening to each other and by discussing and by not working on our own. You see, in Moroccan Arabic, I repeat a proverb I produced a couple of days ago, I guess, in one of the recent lives. The one who counts alone will have a lot of elements left or coins or whatever. It's like that. So thank you, Si Muhammad. Really encouraging. Anis says, is a passive sentence. In a passive sentence, is the subject is the subject is what was the object in the active. Can we call it a subject? Thank you. I will. See, Anis, please keep watching this live because I will talk about this exactly. Okay. Fine. So let me answer you if you intend to leave. We may not call it this. It's not a subject, subject. It's an NP that has moved to the subject position. So it's the position that is the subject. Better use the subject position. See, Anis, if you are doing syntax, I'm answering you from a syntactic perspective, but we can say it becomes a subject at high school. For example, if you teach at high school, or if you are a language learner, I don't know, Anis, if you are an S5er, or I really don't know. But at high school, we can say, well, the object becomes the subject. This is more likely to be understood by students. But in syntax, it's the subject moves the NP moves to the subject position. Oh, you are already graduated, so I think I am in a better position to speak syntax. So thank you, Anis. Okay, so we say that it has moved to the subject position. That's better. Okay, good. See, Kingdom of Animals says, greetings, dear professor. Greetings, Kingdom of Animals. Anytime you can, could you please explain or give an example of a conjunction phrase and the difference between the use of TP and IP? Thank you in advance. Are you conjunction phrase? I hope you did not confound it with the CP. I hope you don't confound. Otherwise, there is an analysis for conjunctions to project. But generally, what projects are functional categories and grammatical categories. Now, for the TP, the difference between the TP and the IP is that the TP, see Kingdom of Animals, here we have to divide history into pre-1992 and post-1992. Because the turning point happened in 1992 with an article produced by someone who goes by the name of Pollock. So Pollock 92 talked about what he referred to as the split infill hypothesis, which means that before 1992, the category of infill functional phrase was an umbrella term that included tense, agreement, and aspect, and maybe other features. But interest was in the category itself rather than in the different, hierarchies of these features. Okay? Pollock came and said, well, there is good reason to argue that info has to be split into, tense phrases and, tense phrase and agreement phrase and also aspect phrase, and different languages rank these differently. Okay, so in syntactic analysis, it does not harm unless you are immediately concerned with the internal structure of IP, then you can dig into these things. But if you are an S5 student, for example, waiting for the exam to take place, whether you go for NP, for IP, or for TP, there is no problem with this. if you call it TP, call it IP. In my class, I typically use NP, and if any of my students refers to the IP, and if any of my students uses TP instead of IP, that's also correct. Okay, so there is no problem when it comes to this. Anas Kamal, we assume check-in features via structural relations such as government of white transformation-based grammar that exerts successive movement operations. Can we assume check-in features via structural relations such as government to avoid transformation-based grammar that exerts successive movement operations to end up with more economic? Yes, that's exactly what the minimalist program is about, because it came, it was realized that when you talk about movement like the long distance WH movement, which has to move in a successive cyclic fashion, and where you need to specify certain features and argue that they move here to pick them up from another place, here it was found out that there is an acquisition burden. It was realized that it's burdensome for the child, for example, learning the language to do this, which means that we are accounting for it in a more complex way. Let's call it complicated, not complex. Complicated means there is an acquisition burden. Minimalism came to streamline the process, to alleviate this acquisition process by modeling it in such a way as to minimize movements, and minimize transformations, in fact. Okay, so yes, that's true, Anas Kamal. Thank you, Si Mohammed Boysan. Never mind, you are targeting quality people. Thank you very much, and you are a quality, person, as are our friends here who are following us. Thank you. كون عندنا أساتذة بحالك من زمان تكونوا No, I'm not doing much anyway. I'm just sharing the little knowledge that I have acquired thanks to so many people. Thanks to some effort on my part, but basically to the help of so many people, without whom we cannot be who we are. Barakallah. Thank you so much. See, Mustafa, I feel flattered. Okay, Anissa, you already graduated. Yes. Natalie Leblanc says, we have become addicted to your lectures and we are expecting more. Thank you very much, Natalie, for this encouraging word. That's kind of you. Okay, there are more comments than I had expected. Okay. Anas Kamal, can we assume? Also, I have read that. See, Anas, maybe. What do you think of professors who do everything to be called qualified professors PH, but then they become supervisors? Do they do everything but supervise their students? Well, at least the people I know are doing their work in the best way possible. I don't think that there are supervisors who do not do the supervision because they are responsible for that. Okay, I cannot tell, Si Mustafa, honestly. I cannot tell. I cannot tell. Okay, Kingdom of Animals. No conjunction phrase like and in a clause or in a sentence. So a conjunction phrase would be conjunction double bar, conjunction bar, etc. These are developments of the theory, to the extent that the noun is no longer, and the noun phrase is no longer a noun phrase, but rather a determiner phrase. But at the stage in which I am with my students, we generally do not delve into these issues. We keep, we cover, what is basic, because what happens in syntax is that, so unlike phonology, and even in phonology you have these transformations, but syntax, every short period of time, after every short period of time, there is a new model. Okay, why? It's because there are always recalcitrant data that you cannot explain. So another model comes and within the same theory. I mean, within the same theory. So so the safest way is to start with the basic model and make the students understand it well, so that when they go to the master's program, they will, capitalize on it. Because if you start, with the lack, let me give you two examples. And this one here also of conjunction phrase. It's too much for students at certain who are grappling with the basic architecture of X bar theory. So let's make them know that, for example, we have three levels, and we have a zero, we have a complement, we have an adjunct, we have some movements here. When they do this, we can move to, for example, determiner phrase and split infill hypothesis and verb movement. Okay. Small v, big V, all these are part of the theory, but these are different models, and they are very confusing if you bring the student, in the middle of all of these. This runs the risk of making them very confused. Syntax is not easy, yes, but it's not easy because of these the plethora of models that within each theoretical framework there are models. Okay, so I don't know, my friend there, Kingdom of Animals. I don't know if you are taking an S5 course or you are a doctoral student. I really don't know at what level you are talking about. Okay, nice. So I got you, sir, but the subject doesn't really mean the doer. That's true. So it doesn't mean the doer because that's why we call it the subject position. It's not the doer, but it comes to occupy the subject position. We will see this now, and you will see the analysis, and you may react to this later on, of course, to enrich the discussion. 1 hour has already elapsed, so let me quickly read these. It's what the sentence is about in the passive. The sentence is about the receiver. I fully agree with you. I study at the same. Yes, okay, yes. I study at the CRF and a professor of mine. Okay, fine. So let me. I think this necessitates explanation because the topic of today is NP movement in passive constructions. So let me start with that. After I finish, reacting to these. What agrees with the verb? Well, and it's what the sentence is about. So it's the subject. Okay, we will talk about this piece. So it all depends. If from a pedagogical perspective, Mr. Anis, from a pedagogical perspective, you are teaching children or teaching children. Okay, children, yes, and students maybe at high school, or you are training a teacher, because there is what we call pedagogic grammar. You may say, I repeat this, you may say that the object becomes the subject so that they will know that it has moved from it's really a swapping. We don't even refer to it as movement. It's a swapping or changing positions between the subject, or we can even say it as plainly as the object becomes the subject or takes, but we don't really mean it. It's just for pedagogical reasons for the student to understand. If you are speaking from a syntactic perspective, then of course we have a room, let's say, reserved for the subject. So we call that the subject position. Because what moves is not the doer of the action, you are right. And today we will see why this movement should be triggered or is triggered. Okay, so thank you. This is really nice. That's stay tuned, Anis. Stay tuned. Khadija, hello, sir. I have a question that isn't related to today's session. How can a teacher be nice with the students and at the same time keep his or her distance? Yes. There is a proverb saying that you have to give the carrot and show the whip, meaning that if a teacher is very severe in the classroom, is authoritarian, there is a difference between authoritarian and authoritative. Authoritative means that you impose your personality as a teacher there, and the students will you impose your respect in classroom. That's good for classroom management. Authoritarian, no. If you are authoritarian, you will be hated. Make sure if you come with this idea that by definition the students are bad and the students are, impolite and the students are mischievous. If you come with these, of course, the students you will not have a good rapport with the students, and therefore you are likely to have problems in the classroom. You come maybe with a personality so you need to inculcate this idea that you can be too nice, but when it comes to grading, when it comes to, for example, exams, exercises, when it comes to studying, you have to do your job the way it should be done. Introducing games, introducing songs, maybe having an exchange with a student, maybe making a funny situation in class. So this is very highly desirable. Okay, being nice. You are not being nice means what? Being nice means, for example, when a student is in difficulty and you talk to him or her about the reasons behind, for example, either his absence or his being always absent-minded, and you try to, this is being nice. Try to give him or her advice, so forth. Because when they talk to the teacher and they find him or her, reactive or responsive to their complaints and to their, of course, within there are students who see coaching, and you do this coaching, this little, you soften your talk with him or her, etc., advising him or her, motivating him or her. That's being nice. But being nice with students, for example, who do not do, for example, their exercise, you can still be nice, with them, but they should understand that there is a difference between being nice and giving them the grade that they deserve. I always tell my students, some of my students who may complain, sir, you gave me 8. No, it's not I gave you 8. You got 8. So trying to responsibilize them for this. Keeping distance is necessary. Keeping distance is necessary. Your identity there, your job there is that of a teacher, that of a nice teacher, that of probably for some students you are the role model. They see their future in you. And therefore, you have to be careful, because sometimes when you have a group of students and you try to, you either insult them, unfortunately, these practices, I don't know if they are still, they are still attested at high school, but there are teachers who would insult the student like that, or would tell him that he has no relation with studies, he has nothing to do with studies, and therefore better look for something else. Here, the teacher, it's not the business of the teacher. It's not your business to tell the student, no, it's not your job. Who are you to do that? Who are we? Let me, because I'm a teacher. Who are we to say this? No. You have to value the student, whoever he is. It does not mean that he is lazy. If you find out that the student is lazy, it does not necessarily mean that he is. The problem may be in you as a teacher. Let's face the fact. It's auto-criticism. Let's self-criticism. Okay? So sometimes all that the student needs is this talk with the professor that can motivate them. And sometimes, I don't know if, let me ask you this question. You may not remember exactly the date when a teacher, so let's have this test. We all know, for example, what past continuous is. Fine. All of us know it. Do you remember the day, the afternoon, the morning, or the room where you were told how to form, how to conjugate a verb to put the form of how to conjugate the verb in the present continuous? You may not. But if I ask you to go back and remember a nice word that the teacher had told you that motivated you, you may remember the teacher. You may remember whether it was a morning or an afternoon. You may remember whether it was in room X or room Y. You may remember even the way the teacher was dressed, because that has impacted you. In the same vein, when the teacher tells you that you are not fit for studying and you'd better go to sell, I don't know, you see, here you also remember, which means what? Which means that the way we deal with our students imports. It's as important as is what we teach them. Okay, so we have to believe in this. This, we have to adopt this humanistic approach. That's for sure. That's for sure. Being severe and face to face with the student, on the first day and for the first mistake, and this is a mistake that the teacher can make. Okay, you can stop the teacher, the student, and talk to him. Why are you laughing? Is there a problem? Is there? I would love to not to hear these things again. And we are here to study and to laugh. We are not enemies after all. You see, so one has to clarify, because when you do it this way, the student will know automatically that there are limits, and that you are there. You are not joking. That you are not joking. Of course, if there is loose behavior that repeats in class, here, you need to take administrative. But please, but do not tell the student that you are not fit for the studies. Do not insult. We are not there to insult. Not good. It's not good. We have to keep our identity as professors who are there for a mission. Okay? Motivate whenever you can. That's fine. Be a transformative teacher. Be someone who is there to impact. It's not just to teach, but also to impact. You cannot realize the influence teachers exercise on their students. There are teachers who are taught, maybe who had a teacher, I don't know, 10 years ago, and they still remember him or her for his or her good qualities, and they tag them, for example, on Facebook when there is this question, do you remember the teacher who taught you mathematics or English, whatever? And many teachers are tagged. Why do you think people are tagging them? I came across the video of someone who had an experience at one of the Moroccan universities, and who was talking about some of the teachers who impacted him. He was talking in Darija, I remember. And I find this very interesting. You see how the impact that we can have on our students. So it's not just the content, it's also the way the students have this capacity of detecting whether you are there for them, or you are there because you are obliged to be there, and you don't care whether they learn or not. They can know this. they know these things. Okay, nice. So when if I don't know if I have high school teachers here, but for adolescents we have to be very careful, because they can easily be impacted by any wounding word that you can say, or the expression they could say. Sometimes they can hate the subject only because they were disappointed in the teacher and the way the teacher handled them, dealt with them. So we have to be very careful when it comes to these things. But at the same time, one has to keep distance, because that environment is a professional environment. Okay, where there is respect, fine. But when people started to befriend the teacher like that, friend in the sense that we can say my friend in the classroom. Because we say that. I do say, tell my yes, my friend there has said something. Of course, yes, but this does not mean that that you allow these students to disrespect you. For example, a very quick example is when I receive, for example, emails. I don't know whether the students. I'm sure some students, very few. This is very few, of course. You receive an email. I receive an email on occasions, for example, which is written in Darija. Someone in S5 sending you an email in Darija. And distance is not respected. Distance does not mean superiority, inferiority at all. It does not imply this at all. Distance means that there is a professional environment. You know your roles, you know your limits. Other people know their limits. That's all. But sending an email, عافاك يا أستاذ, بغيت نسولك على, no, that's not good. That's just an example of so many examples of. So we need to make our students know the limit between the professional and the personal. and also we need to teach them how to respect, okay, the environment, and how to respect the teacher and the administration as well. There are techniques for doing that, but avoid going to the confrontation, to the dispute on day one. That's not really a good sign. So this is an issue that is worthy of investigation. So thank you. I don't know who asked this question, but thank you very much. Yeah, it's okay. Anis. So I think it was Miss or Mrs. Khadija who asked that. Yes, it is. Yes. Mustafa, what's supervisory? Okay. Mustafa, what supervisory skills should a professor have? Well, supervision consists in guiding the student, first and foremost, helping them out of this roundabout at the beginning, because one of the most difficult parts in a researcher's journey is the beginning, is setting objectives, setting hypotheses, and establishing the roadmap. The supervisors generally do that. And then providing advice and answering the students' requests, and generally these are the guidelines. And of course, reading the draft, of course, and helping them. Maybe if there are conferences, they share it with them. This is what they generally. That's why he's also referred to as an advisor. Okay, so providing his supervisory roles consist in providing advice where necessary, and watching the progress of the forwarding steps of the researcher, the doctoral researcher. Okay, thank you, Mustafa, for pointing that out. My phone is dying, unfortunately, and I'm not at home. You will find the video available, Anis, so you are welcome. Muhammad al-Zaraq, nice and severe, nice and severe simultaneously. Muhammad al-Zaraq, maybe nice and strict, nice and because severity implies it's a bit pejorative. It means that they are afraid in that sense. So let's target respect rather than fear. Okay, nice. Mohammed Zaruk, clear limits, very good, are communicated implicitly and grasped with time. Thank you very much. That's true. Narjis is uploading and liking. Thank you very much. Yes, okay. Mohammed Zaruk, yes. Tell me I forget. Listen to this. You listen to this by Muhammad. Tell me I forget. Teach me I may remember. And this is the example I gave you about the person who taught you, the present tense. You may have forgotten him, and sometimes they can give you a piece of information that you can forget altogether. And involve me, I learn. Involve me. Involve me means don't exclude me. Because when you say to someone, your place is not here, your place is in somewhere else. Your place is somewhere else to do a craft or to sell or to help, or no. To get some money instead of studying. Here you are excluding, so you are not involving. You see? So that's the thing. So I think this sums it all. Involve me, I will learn. That's made by Benjamin Franklin. That's true. Khadija Handar says, thank you so much, sir. We keep learning from you every time. We learn from each other, in fact. So thank you very much. Halima Shadli, there is a prof. I'm sorry. Okay. I would like you to delete comment like this, please. Okay. I'm really sorry. Excuse me. Halima, excuse me. Okay, nice. So this is the idea. So we can move now in the absence of further comments. I'm sorry. I hope you are not too tired. So let me just, okay. So let's move, please, to the discussion of what we are supposed to cover today. Zakaria Intahiri, hello, Zakaria. You see, you have come on time because we are about to start our scheduled session. Okay, so let's just start, please. We will talk about NP movement in passive constructions. Okay, are you ready for this? Type 1, please. I have to see at least 5 ones there while I sip from this coffee. واحد. زيد. Looking forward, sir. Thank you, Zakaria. Thank you. Okay. 2. Boys and 1. 3. Kingdom of Animals. 4. 5. Very good. So let's start. Okay, Natalie, thank you. Nadia L, yes, thank you very much. Okay, let's start, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Halima Shadli wrote 5. Okay, thank you. Okay, nice. So I meant I need 5 ones, but thank you very much. Thank you. It shows that you are about to we are about to start. You are ready for us. You are ready to start this part. Let's talk about NP movement, and for the students who were not with us, and the friends who were not with us when we talked about I2C movement, I would like to clarify what movement is. The idea of movement stems from the idea that language is an internal phenomenon. We are born with a language acquisition device, okay, and because we are born with a language acquisition device, this is the mentalistic perspective on language acquisition. Language acquisition, for all its complexity and for all its difficulty, becomes an easy undertaking. Thanks to what? Thanks to the language acquisition device. Where does it come from? We are born with it. So it's innate, it's inborn. That's point 1. Now, language acquisition device, contains, elements of what we refer to as universal grammar. That is to say, the features that are characteristic of all languages, all natural languages, without any exception. Because, the role of the human mind is pronounced, is highlighted in this framework, in this mentalist view. Okay, the computational system is posited, in the brain. So we have this. So the mind has this feature of being computational. It has this computational property, which means that it's able to do the adjustments, to generate, to combine features, to generate, hence the term generative grammar, and so on and so forth. So with this as a background, as Mustafa Morshid has rightly pointed out, in our mind, there are always 2 levels. When we process, when we think of a sentence has 2 levels necessarily. Okay, it has a surface structure and a deep structure. Surface structure, it's the one that is actually pronounced, and deep structure, it's the one that is abstract. So what happens when we produce a sentence is to map these 2 levels, surface and deep. So this is one level, this is one level. We map them, that is to say, we bring them together by means of transformations. Transformations means adjustments, moving this element here, moving this here, merging, maybe deleting, inserting, all these processes on analogy with what you have in phonology. So in phonology, as Mustafa rightly says, we have the underlying representation and the phonetic form. And these are, of course, mapped, by a battery of rules. Okay, good. So in NP movement, what is NP movement? NP movement, very simply, means that you have a noun phrase for some reason that moves from one point, from one level, from one. So, for example, you have a sentence here, and you have an NP maybe here, noun phrase, and it has to move to another phrase. That's NP movement. Okay, so it's an NP that quits its normal position to another position. What types of NP movements we have? We have at least 2. There are others like extraposition. We will not cover it. Even in S5, we're not covering it because we feel that it's time consuming and students need to be introduced to another type of movement anyway. So we will talk about two. Today we will discuss NP movement in passive constructions. Another type of movement is called NP movement in raising constructions, and here we distinguish between a raising predicate and a control predicate, and this is something I will defer to another discussion in the days to come. NP movement in passive construction is best introduced by means of these examples. Okay, so let's just introduce some necessary vocabulary and then we move. Okay. Nice. So let's just start with the, okay, she invited her sister. She invited her sister. Okay. The passive voice, of course, this session is not to teach passive voice, but okay. So the passive voice is her sister. So let me write it like this. Her sister, was invited. I'm sorry, invited by her, of course, by her. Her sister was invited. Let's abstract away from by her for the moment. Let's not use this by her. Now, she invited her sister. Her sister here. Some terminology is necessary. Now, her sister here is what? It is what in relation to invited? It's a direct object. Yes or no? Okay, so here is a terminology, please. We say that the verb invited, by virtue of being a transitive verb, it subcategorizes for an NP. Why? Because it's a transitive verb. Can we say she invited and stop? No, we cannot. So she invited whom? Her sister. Okay, so who is the doer of the action here? The doer of the action is she. Who is undergoing the action? This direct object. You see? Nice. Good. Let me move to something else. For instance, you have a sentence like, so I hope you understand this. At least we have introduced one concept here, which is subcategorization. So invited is a transitive verb. It subcategorizes for her sister, which is the NP, and subcategorizes for means selects. Means if you have nothing here, it's ungrammatical. Means you have to have an NP necessarily, because this one here is a transitive verb. Okay. Now let's move on to the second sentence. What is the famous example that we have been introduced to since primary school? What is it? Ali ate or ate the apple. That's it. Ali, like this, ate the apple. Again, the verb to eat, which is conjugated in the simple past here, is a transitive verb. So this, because it's a transitive verb, it has to subcategorize for a noun phrase. It's direct object. So here, the apple is an NP. The apple, the apple is an NP. Ali is the NP. Now, in terms of their semantic role, and here I have to open a bracket and I need you to listen to me, please. A noun phrase necessarily has to have a semantic role. A semantic role is assigned necessarily a semantic role. I repeat, wherever there is a noun phrase, it has to be assigned a semantic role. When I say Ali ate the apple, Ali is assigned a semantic role. A semantic role of what? Of the doer of the action. You cannot tell me, for example, here in this sentence that Ali does something else other than eating the apple in this sentence. You cannot tell me, for example, that Ali is the one that undergoes the action. No, you cannot. Nor can you tell me that the eating process is done by the apple. No, the apple does not do the process, it receives the process. Okay? So here we say that Ali is assigned the semantic role of the doer of the action, also known as the agent. Agent. So this noun phrase plays the role of the agent. There are a number of semantic roles, by the way. The instrumental, you have a lot, in fact. You see, so you have a lot of semantic roles, and there is even a typology of semantic roles. So for reasons of exposure here, we will just focus on two in order not to be confused, because we're not doing semantics here. So we will use the two semantic roles that are relevant to our analysis of NP movement in passive constructions. So this is an agent, and because the apple undergoes the process of eating, it receives the action, it's the one that is eaten, so we call this the patient. Ladies and gentlemen, henceforth understand that in a sentence where you have a transitive verb, generally you have the doer of the action, which is called the agent, and then you have the patient, the one that receives the action. What are these agent and patient? Please understand this. Agent and patient are semantic roles that are assigned to a given noun phrase. Okay? Therefore, building on our knowledge from previous sessions, a noun phrase is assigned two things. I repeat, a noun phrase is assigned two things. Okay? Yeah, so we have agent, patient, a theme, instrumental, experiencer. It depends on the nature of the verb, Mr. Picasso, but we will not talk about, the details of semantic roles here. If you are an S5er, then you can take, that up, in the other, in semantics, inshallah, in S6. Okay, good. So let me go back to this, please. As long as there is a noun phrase, you have to assign it to things. Let me use the word things here. جوج حوايج اللي خاص تاخذ ال NP, without which the NP is ungrammatical. By the way, you can note this down. You can jot this down if you think you cannot remember, or you go back to the live. Look, ladies and gentlemen, because we should not have this confusion. اسمعوا مزيان. In syntax, so noun phrases are referred to as noun phrases when we want to talk about the syntactic behavior. Therefore, the noun phrase is a syntactic concept. Okay? The noun phrase is syntactic concept. The semantic equivalent of the noun phrase is the argument. We have an argument. Okay? So the noun phrase in syntax is called an argument in semantics. I repeat. The teacher, for example, is an NP from a syntactic point of view, and it is an argument from a semantic point of view. How many arguments do we have here? Because we have two NPs, we have two arguments. Each NP or each argument, syntax, semantics, the meaning, each argument has its own role. This is an argument, this is its role. The first argument, Ali, because it does the action. Now we are talking about the meaning here, right? It is the agent. Here, because it's the direct object that undergoes the action, it is the patient. So jot this down, please. the semantic way of talking about noun phrase is argument. For the verb, this is the verb. The verb is a syntactic construct or a syntactic concept. And in semantics, we call it a predicate. This one here is a predicate. Okay, now let's wear the hat of a syntactician. Yalla, Golshi, wear the hat of a syntactician. Now we are syntacticians, okay? Noun phrase, verb, noun phrase. Out. Now, semantic hat. Take that off, take the semantics hat. Argument, predicate, argument. Argument, which is an agent, predicate, and another argument, which is a patient. Okay, good. Now, can this Ali here be a patient in this sentence? Can Ali be a patient? No, it cannot. Good. No, it cannot be a patient. Can the apple be an agent? No, it cannot be an agent, because wherever you put this, even when you passivize, the apple will still be the one that undergoes the action. Do you understand? So please keep these pieces of information at the back of your mind if you would like to understand clearly and very easily, the NP movement in passive constructions. I'm sorry, I need to have a sip of water. Okay, nice. So the argument that an argument has to receive only one semantic role, okay, and that every semantic role belongs only to one argument. For example, agent in this sentence, it has to be assigned only to one argument. So if it's assigned to Ali, it cannot be assigned to the apple. Similarly, if Ali is assigned the agent, it cannot be assigned the patient. In other words, it's a one-to-one association. It does not go in multiple ways. And this is exactly what the principle of a well-known theory is about. This theory is known as the Theta theory. Theta theory. Okay, let me write it here. The Theta theory. And I will let you know why I am talking about this, because it's immediately relevant to what we are going to talk about. So we call it theta. Theta probably because there is theme. Okay? So theta theory. Theta. Theta theory very simply means that every argument, that is to say noun phrase, has a thematic role or is assigned the thematic role. Okay? And this theory, as Si Mustafa is following with me, thank you very much. This theory is encapsulated in, a well-known principle known as the Theta criterion. The Theta criterion. Okay, let me write it here. The Theta criterion. The theta, or you can write it like the voiceless interdental fricative. The theta criterion. What does the theta criterion say? What does the theta criterion say? The theta criterion say, أهلا سي يوسف النصيري, مرحبا بك, thank you. Okay, the theta criterion says every argument is assigned one and only one theta role. يعني Ali, when it is assigned the role of the agent, it cannot be assigned the role of patient. So every argument is assigned one and only one theta role. And every theta role is assigned to one and only one argument. For example, I cannot assign agent to Ali and at the same time to the apple. Do you understand this, my friends? So I hope you do, okay? So let's move on to another, so point two, before we start talking about movement. And when you understand these things and move to movement, it will be very easy to understand. So these will constitute solid arguments to, explain, the behavior of noun phrases or noun phrase movement in passive constructions. So let me clean this. Now we have talked about the semantic story of the noun phrase. We talked about the noun phrase semantically. We called it an argument, and we made the point that every argument is to be assigned one and only one theta role, and every theta role is assigned to one and only one argument. Yeah, that is to say there is no multiple association, multiple assignment from both directions is not allowed. So we have done this. Now we move to the discussion of the syntax of these noun phrases. And this syntax of the NP is captured by what? We talked about it. It's by case filter. Case filter regulates syntactic behavior. Theta criterion regulates semantic behavior. Okay, so you remember the case filter? My S5 students, if you are here, you don't make the mistake again because you don't seem to remember it the other day. Okay, on Monday. So case filter is in fact a constraint on noun phrases in languages, not just in English, it's noun phrases. It simply says that when you have a noun phrase, like Ali here, the noun phrase cannot exist if it does not have proper case assignment. For example, Ali here is the subject, and because it's the subject, it necessarily needs to be assigned nominative case. So does it have a case? Yes. What is it? It's nominative case. Perfect. Now, the apple here is a direct object, and direct objects are always assigned accusative case by the verb. Very simply, when you have a verb and its direct object, it means that the verb has assigned accusative case to its object, to the direct object, in satisfaction of case filter here. So one thing to remember about case filter is that no NP, no overt, overt means it should be clear, it should be visible. No overt NP if NP is caseless. If we have evidence that there is a noun phrase that does not have case, it means what? It means that the sentence is ungrammatical. Now, another thing you need to add to this piece of information, it's part of case filter. For nominative case is assigned by the info, by I0. You remember I0. So a finite info, you may write it down if you wish. Oops, sorry. Only a finite info is able to assign nominative case. Inflection, some of our friends here can call it tense, T0. It has a job. Apart from bearing tense and aspect features, it has this second role of assigning nominative case to the nearest NP, to the subject. That's why in representing the structure of a clause, this is always the specifier of an IP. A less specifier of an IP in order to be close to I0 that will assign it nominative case. For the direct object, the verb assigns it to it accusative case. So let me say something. Let me provide you with an example that violates case filter. For example, can I say this? Can we say we to travel? Of course we cannot. Nobody will accept this. We to travel. Why? It's because we have a violation of case filter here. Case filter is clearly violated here. علاش violated here? Because we have an NP here, which is a pronoun, noun phrase, which is the subject, of course. And because it's the subject, it has to be assigned nominative case. However, unfortunately, there is a condition, we talked about that. Only finite inflections are able to assign nominative case. Here, this is not finite, it's non-finite. So, nominative case is blocked here. This is the exact explanation of case filter. Okay? So, let me summarize and then move to NP movement directly now. Here we have talked about NP from a semantic perspective and from a syntactic perspective. From a semantic perspective, the NP is regulated by the theta criterion, saying that whenever you have an NP, which they refer to semanticists refer to as arguments, so whenever there is an argument, you assign it one and only one theta role. You cannot assign it two theta roles. And when you have a theta role to assign, each theta role, like the agent, has to be assigned to one NP, not to two in a sentence. So when I have Ali here from a semantic perspective, number one, it's not an NP, it's an argument. Alash, because I'm wearing the semantic hat. This Ali here has a thematic role, which is that of the agent. According to the theta criterion, the agent here is assigned to Ali, but cannot be assigned also to the apple, because it's one and only one. In the same vein, Ali is assigned agent, okay? So we cannot assign patient also to Ali. So one noun phrase, one theta role. One theta role, one noun phrase. That you say one argument, let's say. Okay? So all in all, the semantic part of the sentence is regulated by the theta criterion. The syntactic part of it is regulated by case filter. Now we will use these two to argue for NP movement in passive constructions. Okay? Good. So let's move on, please. Okay. Okay, let's write this classic example. The ball was, okay, I think I need to stand up to be able to write it clearly, all right? The ball was written by John, okay? Was kicked. It was written. The ball was kicked. Okay, by John, it's fine. Now, if we look at this sentence, If we look at this sentence, the ball was kicked, let's say, by John, okay? We will notice the following. The ball here, is it the receiver or the instigator of the action? Answer, obviously, nobody will tell me that the ball did something to John. It's John that did something to the ball. Meaning what? From a semantic perspective. The ball is an argument, yes or no? Okay? So because it's a subject, well, let's call it an argument here, does it have the agentive like Ali ate the apple? No. Why? It's because the ball received the action. Ali ate the apple. Ali instigated the action. So here, the ball received the action, which means that this is what? This is a patient. And John here is the agent. What does it reveal about processes and about syntactic movements? Movements, one of the salient characteristics of movements in syntax is that they are meaning preserving. What is meaning preserving? It means that the ball was kicked by John. The ball here is generated after kicked. The ball at deep structure comes after kicked. Why? Because kick is what? It's a transitive verb. And because it's a transitive verb, it has to subcategorize for, okay, or has to select a direct object. Okay, it has to select a direct object. This direct object does not exist here. Okay? And that's number one. Number two, the thematic role of patient, you see, comes after the element expressing action, which is the verb. So the verb is here, expressing action. The action is done on what? On the NP that we should have here. That's argument one, that the ball is generated here and it has moved. Okay? Now, argument number two is that, you see, here we should have an NP. Normally we should have an NP because this is a transitive verb. Okay? So the fact that we do not have any NP here and we cannot fill it with any other NP, for example, John kicked, the ball was kicked, the bucket, for example. We cannot have this because this is reserved for this. We have this feeling, this hunch, this intuition that this place is reserved for this NP here. Meaning what? Meaning that this is generated here and it has undergone movement. Okay? I repeat. We have an argument here, at least, so we have many, in fact, but we have one solid argument that the ball in this passive voice, in this passive sentence, the ball, this noun phrase, is generated. ما معنى generated? Generated means at deep structure. At deep structure, it came here. What is the evidence? The evidence is that it has the thematic role of patient. And the patient thematic role is assigned at this level here by the verb. So it's at the level of the verb by the argument. Okay, good. Argument number two, the fact that we cannot introduce another NP here means that this is an empty space reserved only for this. It means this is occupied by this. You got the point. Nice. So what happens, but the question is, why should, that's the key point. The question is, why should this move from here to here? Why? I need your attention here, please. One explanation in generative linguistics is that there is what we refer to as feature absorption. Feature absorption means what? Means, sorry, let me clean this for more clarity. For more clarity, kicked like this, and then you have by John. Okay. Let me explain this concept. When you understand this, everything else becomes clear. So, was kicked by someone. In English, I told you time and again that unlike other languages, English is characterized by light morphology. It's not heavily inflected. For example, in Arabic, if you want to use, to derive the passive voice, you say أكل علي التفاحة أكلت التفاحة. So أكل أكل. See, so you do something internally inside the word. in أمازيغ إتواتشي إتواسو إلى آخره ذاك and all the accompanying morphophonic processes in there. Okay, in Darija you have تكال تكتب تصيفط إلى آخره, which means it's a passive voice which is achieved morphologically. English, no. English, even if there is a morpheme for passive, it is postulated. There is a morpheme called maybe a passive morpheme, but it's not realized morphologically, as is the case with Arabic, Amazigh, Darija, etc. Do you understand? So it's still it's lingering here, but it's not visible, but it's there. Okay, so this is the passive morpheme. The assumption made by some syntacticians, which I find very logical and helps explain these things, is that the introduction of the passive morpheme, which is abstract, the passive morpheme here, okay, I'll have to clean this and write the full sentence, please, okay? So here, I'll have to move here to be able to write clearly. Was kicked. Let me write it here. I think now it's better. So, look at this, please. At deep structure, we have to have this. Why? Because the ball here receives the action. How do we know? For obvious reasons, because kicked the ball. Someone kicked the ball. Okay, good. So kick the ball here. The ball here has what we call, the thematic role of being a patient. It receives the action, unless because it comes immediately after the verb, after the what's that? The predicate. Okay, so it has this thematic role here. Just follow, please. And of course, so we talked about thematic role. Apart from the thematic role, the NP here, the ball, also receives or is assigned accusative case by the verb. There are two things that the verb does to the next noun phrase. It does something semantic to it, but it also does something syntactic to it. Semantically, it gives it a thematic role. It has this thematic role. It receives a thematic role in this position after the verb. Let's say that it receives a thematic role. Okay? But it also does something syntactic to it, which means it assigns to it accusative case. Donc, عندنا جوج حوايج هنايا. Thematic role, as long as it's semantic, so it's not assigned necessarily by the verb, but the case is assigned by the verb. In other words, the ball here has two types of features, semantic features and syntactic features. Semantic features, it's the receiver of the action, therefore it's the patient. ها واحدة. رقم جوج, this one here is assigned accusative case by the verb. All right? Now let's talk about what happens here. I told you that in some languages like Arabic, okay, the marker of passive voice is what? It's done morphologically. كتب, كتب, أكل, أكل, etc. تكتب, اتواري, اتواسو, إلى آخره. So you can feel that there is a morphology expressing passive voice. You see? In English, no, it's not expressed morphologically, it's expressed syntactically. And therefore, for this adjective morpheme, like تكتب, the t that we have in Moroccan Arabic, تكتب, تشرب, إلى آخره, تصيفط, you see, الكتاب تصيفط لك وانت ما توصلتش به الايميل تصيفط لك في الصباح. You say, for example, تصيفط, that's passive voice. But in English we have to express it, syntactically, because of the relatively poor or less dense morphology that characterizes the English language. Okay, so here this will tell us what? This will tell us that because language is universal, because we have a sentence in the passive voice, normally what we need to do is postulate that there is an abstract morpheme called agentive morpheme. Agentive morpheme is the morpheme for passive voice. You see, the agentive morpheme, which is here, which is imposed on this part of the sentence, and consequent to that, because it's abstract, this is how you understand it. Because it's not visible, because it's abstract, it has absorbed, it has eaten up, it has consumed, okay, the case, that the accusative case of the ball. So here is the story. Listen to the story. The story is that kicked assigns accusative case to the ball. The agentive morpheme came and it has absorbed those features, which means that the features that have been absorbed by the passive, okay, or by the absorbed by the passive morpheme or the agentive morpheme. But let's call it the passive morpheme. Agentive morpheme. Passive morpheme is better. Okay. Anyway, it's agentive passive. We are talking about the same thing anyway. So here, the morpheme is absorbed, or the features are absorbed by the morpheme. As a consequence, the ball survives with no feature, with no case features, does not have case assignment. Okay, so here the ball becomes caseless. I repeat the story. We have a verb here, which is a transitive verb assigning accusative case to the next noun phrase. Suddenly, the passive morpheme came, abstract as it is, and it has eaten up these features. Consequent to this is the fact that this NP becomes caseless. الكيس ديالها مشات ادها الباسيف morpheme. That's why we call feature absorption, which means that this is caseless. And this is a clear violation of what? A clear violation of case filter. What's the solution to save this, to salvage the situation? This is the reason why the ball, because if it survives here, it will be ungrammatical. The proof is that we cannot have a sentence like this. This is ungrammatical, of course. What happens? This needs to look for another place where it can receive case. For example, appropriate case, just not to violate case filter. So it has to travel from here and go here to the subject position. Why? Because when you have the ball here, the ball was kicked. The ball here will not violate case filter. Why? Because there is this I0 here, this inflection, which is a finite info, which has the capacity of assigning nominative case to this ball. It does not have accusative case in its position. It's better to be assigned nominative case than to die without any case. Do you understand me or no? Just imagine you want to drink, you usually drink mineral water. Yeah. And you wake up and you find out that somebody took the bottle of water from you. So what you need to do is, to go to a place where you will quench your thirst. So if you don't find mineral water here, you will take just, any water that is, filtered water or normal water, tap water or whatever. So this is better than surviving without water. Just think of this analogy, please. You see? So here, the story is very simple. We have an NP here whose case features are absorbed by the abstract agentive morpheme here, or passive morpheme, and therefore this state of affairs triggers the movement of the NP to the subject position. Why? Because there it will find a finite infill because finite infills are able to assign case, nominative case. That's why it survives the way it does here. Okay, so this is the story. The other thing, that's an additional argument to what we are saying. When the ball is here, even if it has occupied the subject position, our interpretation of it, the thematic role of it, is that it's still a patient. علاش? Because semantic roles do not change if you move. If you move a word, it moves with it also its semantic features. Because they say that syntactic movements are meaning preserving. They preserve the meaning. They don't lose it. So when they go, they take it with them. It's like when you move from here, you take your name and your family name with you. Okay? Okay? Fine. I hope you understand me here. This is very simple. So let's just have a tree diagram representation, and then maybe we will end with an exercise or with a discussion. So let me just do it this way, ladies and gentlemen. Oops. Yeah. So let me draw a tree diagram to explain this. So the ball was kicked by John. So the ball was kicked by John, of course, is a sentence, and because it's a sentence, it's a one clause sentence, of course. The ball was kicked by John. Before I proceed, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to make the point that, jot it down, please. This is a reminder. By John, so always, when you have by someone in passive voice, that by someone is an adjunct. It's not a complement. It's an adjunct. So just bear that in mind. So let's start this representation here. So what we have is C double bar, C double bar. I hope you can see things clearly here. So this is C double bar. And of course you have a spec CP, which is universally empty. This one is made only to receive, moved WH words. And then because I have a C double bar, I have to have a C bar and I have to have a C0. And this one here is minus WH plus finite. So let's write it like this. Let me write clearly because some of you commented rightly that sometimes it's not clear. Okay, like this. So here, that's okay. So the complement of a C0 is an I double bar here, an I double bar. And an I double bar has as a specifier, I think you know this from previous lectures, it has an NP, so which is an N double bar. Some people would call it a DP, both are correct, okay? So here we have the ball, I'll come back to this. Okay, let's write the ball here. The ball. Of course, you can choose to detail these, but for just ease of exposition, I have used the triangle here. So I have an I bar, and then you have I0. You can use T bar, T0, T double bar, feel free. Okay, so here I have plus tense plus agreement. Why is it plus tense plus agreement? It's because the verb is conjugated here. So, and then we have the VP, V double bar. Because I have an adjunct here, by John is an adjunct, which means that I have to create a V bar and then I reserve it for by John. And then I have to write the original V bar here. And then I have, V0. I don't know if it's visible. Okay. John was, so the ball was kicked. I apologize, I have to redo it in a better way. You know, I'm afraid I will not have space there. The ball was kicked by John very quickly. The ball was kicked by John. So I have this C double bar, spec. This is empty, C bar, C0, minus WH plus finite. Okay. Then I have I double bar. Then I have N double bar. So the ball here, the ball. And then I have I bar I0. So here, when you have was kicked, when you have a sentence in the, so we have an auxiliary and the past participle, you can either choose to write the auxiliary here and the verb there, or plus tense plus agreement, and then you write the rest there. You choose to do it the way you like. So let's say was here, just to make life easy. Then you have the V double bar here, V double bar. So we have an adjunct, I leave it here. This is the original. And then I have V0, kick. Kick is what? Kick is a transitive verb, so we cannot say kick and stop. Therefore, we have to, argue that there is a direct object in the form of a noun phrase here. So we have kicked here, kicked. And then, okay, let me write it in a clear way because I need to show movement here. V0, yeah, V0. And then I have kicked. And then I have an NP, N double bar, that leaves a trace, my friends. So here we say that the agentive morpheme is introduced here, and it has absorbed the feature of this noun phrase, okay? And this is a violation of case filter, so this noun phrase has moved here. So that's why we say it has left a trace and it has moved here, okay? It has moved from a place where it has lost case features to a place where it is near I0, and we know that I0 assigns nominative case features. That's how it saves itself. And then, of course, we have the P double bar, P bar, P0 by, and then you have John, which is N double bar, N bar, you know the story, N0, and then you have John. So this is the tree diagram representation, right? Good. Nice. So I guess now that you, Nathalie Leblanc says it's clear. I'm very happy it is. I0 is was. Chernobyl, you have two ways of doing this. Chernobyl is asking a question that so many students ask. So when you have like is doing, was doing, has done, with these composed tenses that composed of the auxiliary and the participle, you either write under I0, under T0, plus tense plus agreement. Chernobyl, you have deleted the message, but I read it and I'm answering you. Okay. Or you can choose to write this was here, Alash, because it's like writing plus tense plus agreement. This plus tense plus agreement fall on was, no problem. This is not conjugated, so you put it under I0. There is no problem with this. Yeah, so this has landed on a new island. That's true, Si Mustafa, in order to receive appropriate case features. Let me see if there are comments related to this. Okay. In syntax, the verbal science case, I think, yeah, okay, so Mustafa, nominative case versus accuracy case. Thank you for helping with this explanation, Mustafa, very relevant indeed. In syntax, the verbal science case, in semantics, the verb takes an argument. Yeah, it's called an argument, of course, and it, for the transitive verb, the noun that comes after it receives or is assigned the thematic role of a patient. How about if one has a relative pronoun instead of a direct object? Then, of course, if it's a relative pronoun, it means that there is a relative clause. Okay? Here, if we have a relative pronoun, it means that you have a WH WH movement C Yusuf, and this is something we will come to discuss later on. That does not have to do with NP movement. For example, I like the meal that you presented me with. I liked the meal that we had together in that restaurant. You see, so that we had together in that restaurant, that's a clear case of WH movement in relative pronoun constructions. Okay, so that's going to come later. Okay, movement is meaning preserving. That's true, Si Mustafa. Picasso, to get case. Yeah, maybe you are completing something you said before. Theta absorption. Yeah, Natalie, very clear. Thank you very much. Thank you. Chernobyl, thank you. I have answered your question, Chernobyl. Do we still have questions to answer? Do we still have things to react to? Shall I assume that type 1 if you understand what I wrote here, what I explained here about NP movement in passive constructions. I need 5 occurrences of 1. Otherwise, it's a failure on my part, and I have to find other ways of explaining. Okay, Anas says 1. Thank you, Anas. What is the role of VP to transfer the NP here? What happens? Okay, so Chernobyl has deleted something. Nothing has deleted something. Thank you very much. That's fine. So I think people who are interested can understand these things very quickly. How about the negative form? The ball was not kicked. Now, for the negative, I avoid using this negative in explaining these things because negation, has received different treatments. Who is asking this? Natalie? I guess Natalie. Yeah, different people have dealt with negatives in different ways, and because negatives, number one, negative constructions, appear in different forms in different languages. There are languages with one negator, languages with multiple negators. The other thing is that there is an ordering between negation and aspect and tense. So some people treated it just as a specifier. If you want to be, in English and you want to represent it, that not can be a specifier of the VP. But other treatments would refer completely to the negation phrase. So in order to avoid, in my case, these problems, I just do without negation in my classes. So Natalie, the bottom line is that this will depend on the model within this governed by the theory that we are adopting. I would very simply, for expository reasons, for pedagogical reasons, I would, simply say that, write it as a specifier of a VP just because I have this negator. Otherwise, you need to take another direction of arguing for the phrasal status of the negative phrase or the negator phrase. I don't know whether Natalie is in my S5 class. I really don't know. Okay, so if you are Natalie, then you will not get that on the day of the exam if that's a worry. Mustafa Murshid, neg belongs to the neg phrase. Yes, that's what many treatments would say. So I'm from you are Natalie Leblanc. Who are you among my master? Or you don't want to reveal your identity? I'm sorry. Okay, I have always been wondering whether you are an S5er or you belong to our university. Oh, so you are Besma. Okay. So thank you, Besma, for your contribution here. So you are a master student, so you find a way, because you are dealing with more advanced stuff. Therefore, you need to check about the status of negation in the minimalist program. This is more geared towards S5 syntax, so we are not doing much. Okay, we're not dealing with advanced stuff. I do this personally for pedagogical reasons because it's very easy to confuse students. So we need to teach them the basics first, and then they can delve into the ramifications of the analyses, depending. Yeah, she turns out to be a Moroccan. I've always wondered who she was. She turns out to be my master's student. Okay, nice. So are there any, so let's bring this topic to a close? Is there anything you would like us to react to, or is it time for you to relax? Yeah, tell us. Is there a worry? Is there something you would like to maybe ask about, or anything you would like me to react to? Otherwise, we maybe call it a day or call it an evening, and then maybe we will meet in the. I still have other issues in phonology to handle, especially distinctive features and phonological processes, phonological rules, and we may even deal with data. And I will use this. I will share the screen. I'm just looking for data, or data and questions maybe to answer. Okay, Natalie says, I'm a student. Natalie Leblanc, do we have the same derivation for diatransitive verbs? Again, diatransitive verbs, I avoid diatransitive verbs because we are met with, in the framework that we are using, we stumble upon the condition that, nodes, we have branching nodes. They have two branches, not multiple branches. Therefore, there are ways, for treating diatransitive verb. Give me something. If you say you have a V0 and you have two complements there, then we are, going against what we know about the conditions on the phrase marker, where the branching should be binary, following the spirit of X bar theory. So the treatments are certainly different. Maybe this relates to the treatment of the verb, like light V and V, or the VP shell. You see, but certainly, again, this is something that we do avoid at the level of S5, lest this should confuse students, because we have well-known points to cover, so we go on a step-by-step basis. How does one avoid advanced levels? I cannot. I am speaking about the advanced students who may disturb beginner students. Well, this depends on that's one of the problems in classrooms. We all too often, so wherever you go, in fact, all too often, especially when it comes to English, we should not assume, of course, that because you are teaching S1 geography students that they have the same level. That's for obvious reasons. And heterogeneity is an expected characteristic, and it's up to the teacher, to invest some effort in individualizing learning. I guess that something that looks like a placement test at the beginning of the semester, whatever, the first session, will reveal a lot about who are the students who need more remedial work, and who are the students who can handle the contents very easily. And then you will adapt your teaching to different sections that you have. Okay, Prof, please. Sarah's mother likes herself. Yes, obviously here it's Sarah's mother, not Sarah. Sarah's mother, because if you say Sarah commends herself, you will violate, a rule there, because herself, the anaphor of herself, is Sarah's mother. Okay, maybe Sarah's mother likes her. I agree with you, but herself here refers to the whole phrase. Okay, so herself here cannot be, under any circumstances, be interpreted as referring to Sarah only. It's Sarah's mother. Here, Picasso. Okay, Anas, Professor, is movement in Moroccan Arabic a good topic to work on? Yes, that's very good. And many people talked about that, especially WH movement, because Moroccan Arabic, is a language which is a WH movement language. For example, you say, if you compare it with Egyptian, so where were you in Moroccan Arabic is fin kunti. So you bring the WH, to the beginning, you fronted. In Egyptian Arabic, it's contivine. Contivine, there's no movement. So here it's an in situ. We say WH in situ. Moroccan Arabic is WH movement. That's a very good way of, it's a very good choice, a very good topic. So just go for it, Mr. Anas. Okay, nice. Any other questions, or should we call it a day? You are still 25 people here, which means that there is still interest, or at least enough interest to carry on with the discussion. What is the difference between shift and movement? I'm asking about terminology. Yusuf Nasiri, I'm afraid I cannot understand your question. You mean you're just a dictionary definition? Okay, I would say that shift is moving from point A to point 2. No, it's not off topic. No, machine off topic. No, I cannot ignore it. I just need to know if you are just talking about meaning or a shift. We talk about, for example, the style shifting means moving from point A to point 2, or language shift. But movement can be in different directions. That's the simple explanation if you are talking about the dictionary definition. All right, good. Anas, thank you so much. Susan Nasiri, in case, okay. So I think that's the thing here. That's the thing, unless you're talking about something else. Okay, but in syntax, movement, we do not refer to shift at all. Okay, the term that is used in syntax is movement. NP movement, WH movement, I to C movement, all sorts of movements. Move alpha, that's why they call it move alpha, not shift alpha. Okay, good. Any other points to react to before we call it a day? Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Yusuf. One little point, please. It's not a good idea to maybe to refer to name people and in the comments. So let's keep this as an exchange without personalizing, without referring, without criticizing others. So I'm really, really sorry. Can you respond to my question? You skip it. Which one, Chernobyl? I'm afraid I cannot. Would you like to paste it here? Paste it again, Chernobyl. There's no skipping. It's either I know how to answer it or I don't know how to answer it, honestly. So, yeah, Chernobyl, paste it again. I may have reacted to it and you were not listening. I don't know, but please paste it. See, Mustafa Morshid, in recruitment, how can one answer questions? How will you teach syntax? Very good. Okay, this is nice. Waiting for Chernobyl because I don't want to give the impression that I skip comments. So Chernobyl, if you can listen, if you can hear me, so you are listening, of course. If you can hear me now, paste your comment or your question here. Okay. بارك الله فيك سي العنزاوي عبد الإله. مرحبا. بارك الله فيك. Say Mustafa, in recruitment, how can one answer the question how you will teach syntax? Well, for a content course, we need to distinguish between content courses and language courses. The type of course you will receive most questions on or about are language courses, especially the skills, reading, writing, etc. But if you are asked this question, you can answer. Well, I'll come, Chernobyl. I'll come to your. Please hold on until I react to see Mustafa's question here. I'll come directly to you, Chernobyl. Okay. So, see, Mustafa is talking about how to answer syntax. In syntax, what we do is lecturing. You may say that, for example, if you are keen on technology, I personally don't do that. I do that just to correspond on Google Classroom on occasions, of course, on occasions. I do not, I rarely do that this semester. It's because there is a problem with the students not having access to this because they don't have their institutional emails so we don't want to exclude other people. But if you are someone who uses Google Classroom, then you can assign readings beforehand, and then you come to discuss. You can do what we call flipped classrooms, and you can be creative in this regard. But inside the classroom, what you do is lecturing and giving examples and giving exercises. That's the best way of doing syntax. Syntax is like grammar. You need to do practice. You need to do practice. The more you practice, the more automatically you will be able to represent the tree. Okay, good. Chernobyl says, in the case of intransitive verb like die, how can we deal with it? You mean in the tree diagram? Very simply, if you have the word die, Chernobyl, okay, so we have he died, for example. So you do, C double bar, C0, C bar, C0, I double bar, NP, he, and then you have V double bar, okay? Do I have an adjunct? No. So I have no copy. I just have the original V bar here, the original V bar. Do I have a complement? No, I don't have a complement. So I have to write V0 here and then die like this. If this is the question by C. Chernobyl. Okay, thank you. If you have, if you meant another thing in your question, then let me know. C. Picasso, and then otherwise tell me it's okay. You understand. Yeah, it takes, yeah, in the complementation side. No, it doesn't have, so Picasso, here it's represented like this, okay? So there is no complement, otherwise, but we do have a V level, so double bar, bar, zero. This is ideal, in fact, because you have no determiner, no adjunct, no complement, so go straight, okay? Good. So is there any other thing you would like us to react to, Mustafa? I hope I have, but in recruitment, you are more likely to be asked questions about language courses rather than content courses, despite the fact that you may. So I'm just talking about the probability. I'm not saying that people will not ask you about how to teach syntax or no. But expect equal questions. When it comes to how to teach reading, spoken English, whatever. Especially, my friends there, especially the courses you mentioned that you taught. You mentioned in your CV that you taught. Okay, don't talk about courses that you did not invest in. And I will give you an example. Some people write, for example, that they have taught business English, and maybe they have this belief that the other people do not know about it. But you will always find someone who has an interest in that, and they will ask you just about a textbook or a term that you may not be able to explain, or you never know. So make sure that what you mentioned on your CV is exactly what you mastered, what you taught, and what you invested in. Yeah, at least know the textbook. Don't say, avoid this, please. Avoid this. Avoid saying that, well, I'm looking for the document on the net and I present them. No. When you teach a course, you need at least a textbook to rely on. Okay, so rather than for a course like composition, you may do it. You may give them an exercise book or something that outlines the structure, but most of the work is done in class. But there are courses that definitely, like business English, you cannot do it like that, because you have text and you have cases, les études du cas, case studies that you really need to, that necessarily need not only a textbook but also a workbook and other stuff. Okay. Okay, marhaba, si Yusuf, marhaba. Okay, welcome back. Okay, nice. See, Mustafa says, thank you very much. Thank you. After charging it again while watching the live. Thank you. Thank you so much, Yusuf, Yusuf, for your interest in these live sessions. It's really a pleasure to have here the cream of the cream. All the people here who are reacting are actually people who have a keen interest in the world of academia, and they have this quest for knowledge that they need to, this thirst for knowledge that they need to quench. Look at Yusuf writing erratum. Learn from the ones who don't know erratum. Here is an occasion. Erratum is an academic and a formal way of saying mistake, and the plural of erratum is errata. Generally, when you write a thesis or a research paper and submit it, and in the course of, evaluation, by the members of the jury, you realize, in the course, for example, of waiting for the defense to take place because the members of the jury are looking at your work, you realize that there are some mistakes that you have made relax. This is quite normal. All that you need to do to show to those people that you were not, it's not out of carelessness, but out of probably stress. And so you write a page or two where you name, you call it errata, plural of erratum. From there comes error and error. See, that's Latin. You mentioned the page where you name the error, the false, the incorrectly written thing, and then you mention the page and you correct it after. It's like a table. You call it an erratum. But look, my friends, when your thesis has too many errata, that's a big problem, honestly. So please do revision or revise before you submit the work. Otherwise, you will end up having an errata chapter, which is very embarrassing in this regard. Okay. Nice. We have we have comments here that I missed, I guess. So Si Mustafa says, I helped in teaching 13 AMA and 4 bachelor programs. I used to deal with different languages. Well, this is really nice. So you must have a rich CV, Si Mustafa. And that's really, you need to list this experience, one after another in your CV. Don't lump them, because when you lump these, for example, if you teach, instead of saying I taught at this institution, students belonging to 13 masters, break that down in terms of the years and the type of major that you taught. Or so please try to give value to what you did. All right. So this is really nice, Mustafa. Si Mohammed Al-Zaraq, thank you, Professor. Looking forward to seeing you next session, inshallah. Thank you, Si Mohammed Al-Zaraq. Always welcome. Si Nasiri, thank you for your clearing out the syntactic gap my generation had. Okay, thank you. So Yusuf, you are always welcome. Anyway, I think it's time to have some rest. It's been a pleasure being with you here or to be with you here. And I would like to let you know that I will have, I have taken this decision because the exams are drawing near and different students from different universities. This is what is interesting about what we are doing here. Different students from different universities ask questions and make requests for this or that topic. This is really, really interesting. It shows that there is a keen interest expressed by a number of students, and it's really, really a pleasure when I find out that even some colleagues are following me. They did not react here, but they meet me and they said, I like the way you answered so and so. I liked your explanation of this. So this is really, really nice. So I would like to thank my colleagues who are following me, of course, and who are not following me. Anyway, that's especially from other universities. And you have from Moulay Ismail University, for example, from Mujda, I know colleagues who react to this live, in their messages to me, and this is really encouraging. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Alors, so we have here, frankly speaking, your explanation is a rare avis interas. A rara avis interas. Oh, this is very beautiful Latin expression. Rara comes from rare, avis in terres. Terres means on earth. So maybe it's one way of saying it's a good way. Beyond the book, thank you very much. This is a term I have never heard of, an opportunity, but I could explain it because I could read these Latin traces, okay, which look like French and look like Spanish as well. Thank you so much. Okay. Kalkoun Hisham, thank you, Professor. You enlightened the sky of Moroccan universities. Wow, this is so nice to hear, despite the fact that this is a very small contribution from, from someone who always seeks to learn more and who is a lifetime learner. Mr. Yusuf, thank you for this lecture, Professor Nordin Amroz. Best of luck to all your students. Barakallahu feek. Jazakallahu khairan. Barakallahu feek, Si Mustafa. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So I will post an announcement for the next live whenever I feel like it. Syntax professors should join us to learn from you, where we learn from each other. There are a lot of things that I don't know about syntax. Okay, thank you, Professor, for this interesting lecture. Thank you, Nathalie Leblanc, who turns out not to be a French lady. Merida Sal, thank you, Professor. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you, Merida Sal. Thank you very much. Nadia El, marhaba Nadia, barakallahu fikum. Thank you, everyone. I'm very happy that I have this nice feedback from you in recognition of this humble effort that I am making. Phonology professors and researchers should also join us. We learn from each other, Mustafa. These are just little amounts of effort. نخطئ ونصيب. Okay, ونتعلم. Actually, Kain. Well, thank you very much. Let's meet on another occasion, inshallah. And you mentioned before, I am following you from Bni Bilal. Okay, that's nice. That's nice. You know, some of my best colleagues are from Bni Bilal. تحية للأستاذ زنزون Mustafa. Very kind, very helpful, and a very nice person. And of course, the others, the other colleagues. Left them. Okay, thank you once again, and let's meet on another occasion. Bye bye, everyone.